Hello, this is Dr. Grande. Today I will analyze the case of Brian Johnson. He is the topic of a Netflix documentary titled Untold, The Liver King. First I'll look at the background of this case, move to the timeline of the incident, then offer my analysis. Brian Johnson was born on April 7, 1977, and was raised in San Antonio, Texas. His father, Philip, was stationed at an Air Force base there. When Brian was very young, his father died suddenly. He and his brother were raised by his mother. Brian claimed that he was bullied when he was young and had a speech impediment, which required therapy. After high school, Brian went to Texas Tech University, where he studied biochemistry. After graduating, he moved to Houston and took a job as a pharmaceutical sales representative. At some point, Brian married a woman named Barbara and had 2 sons. One son was named Rad Ickle, like the name Rad, R-A-D, and the name Ickle, I-C-A-L. The other son was named Stryker. I can only assume these names were the top 2 finalists from a WWE name generator. Brian was highly interested in fitness and bodybuilding. He said he was inspired by movies featuring Arnold Schwarzenegger and Sylvester Stallone. As it turns out, his interest in bodybuilding would lead to tremendous success and humiliating controversy. Now moving to the timeline of the incident. Brian Johnson claimed that when his sons, Rad Ickle and Stryker, were young, they were weak, had allergic reactions, and had trouble breathing. They had to go to a hospital as a result. After conventional treatment failed to help them, Brian started reading about the ancestral lifestyle. This involved being in harmony with nature, eating raw meat, organs, and eggs, and avoiding processed foods. He would later say that organs were really blanking awesome, and he became fixated on the liver. He said that all alpha organisms eat liver. In 2016, Brian started a company called Ancestral Supplements and sold organs in bottles. This, of course, included livers. He claimed that his new lifestyle was the solution to physical and mental health problems. In 2017, Brian started calling himself the Liver King. His family members also adopted nicknames. His wife Barbara was the Liver Queen. His son Rad Ickle was Liver Boy Rad, and his son Stryker was Stryker the Barbarian. I don't know if the family has a collective name for themselves, but I was thinking the Liver Avengers, like something Marvel Studios would produce when they completely run out of good ideas. The movie could be titled Liver Avengers: Age of Anemia. In 2021, Brian Johnson became active on Instagram and TikTok. In 2022, he started a YouTube channel. He accumulated millions of followers across multiple social media platforms, including 1.2 million subscribers on YouTube. He published videos containing bizarre antics, which were consistent with his ancestral lifestyle. For example, Brian was featured in videos eating raw bull testicles, like they were chicken nuggets, cutting organs out of animals and ripping them apart with his teeth, consistent with the zombie apocalypse, using his teeth to catch fish straight out of a body of water, submerging himself in an ice bath, working out underwater, and bench pressing his wife. Brian wanted to be a role model for young men so they could express the best version of themselves by tapping into their potential. A lot of people noticed that Brian had an incredible physique with a cartoon-like amount of definition. He claimed this was the result of his ancestral lifestyle, including rigorous exercise. He repeatedly denied the suggestion that he was using any type of drug to achieve this muscle growth, saying that he dramatically increased his muscle size through techniques that were 100% natural. One thing was for certain: there was no way Brian was using steroids. On November 28, 2022, emails were leaked which revealed that Brian was using steroids. He had been spending over $11,000 a month on them. Brian realized that he had been exposed as a fraud and debated about whether he should come clean or continue to lie. Ultimately, he decided on the former tactic. On December 1, 2022, Brian published a video on his YouTube channel titled Liver King Confession: I Lied. In this video, Brian indicated that he misled a lot of people. His situation was complicated, and he never expected this kind of exposure from his social media campaign. Brian admitted that he had taken steroids. He said that people were suffering from depression and anxiety, and young men were lost, weak, and submissive. Essentially, Brian was trying to argue that he may have lied, but he was trying to help people. Brian said that by taking steroids, his liver enzymes went sky high. Ironically, the Liver King almost ended up being the liver killer. Toward the end of the video, Brian argued that his low self-esteem also contributed to his bad behavior. Not surprisingly, Brian's apology video was not well received. Many people believed that he was not truly sorry, minimized the effect of his deception, and tried to make excuses for his behavior. At the time I'm making this video, Brian Johnson continues to operate a supplement business, even though his reputation sustained serious damage. Now moving to my analysis. Here are my thoughts on a few areas that stood out to me in this case. Item number 1. In May 2025, a documentary titled Untold, The Liver King was released on Netflix. It featured Brian Johnson engaging in behavior which was typical for him, like eating raw meat and organs. There were many surprising scenes that would undoubtedly capture the attention of viewers. Brian briefly talked about his past, including his origin story, the one where his 2 sons were sick, which led to the discovery of the Ancestral lifestyle. He promoted his supplement business and talked about how massively successful he was. As far as the steroid scandal, there's this sense that Brian was very confused after he was caught. He didn't really know what to do and may not have been satisfied with the apology direction he selected. In a surprising move that seems to run counter to the idea that he was sorry for apologizing, Brian confessed to multiple offenses, which did not appear to be tied in any way to the steroid use. He revealed a scheme where he had defrauded GNC, where he worked years ago. According to Brian, he fraudulently returned empty bottles to GNC stores using receipts that he had printed. He also confessed to printing money and producing drugs. Evidently, he created drugs using his knowledge of chemistry. Toward the end of the documentary, Brian engaged in this bizarre and erratic attempt to reinvent himself. He embraced vegetables, said that he had been a zombie, and talked about how he had new freedom where he did not have to lie. Brian admitted that he had no idea what he was doing. This was probably not news to most of his viewers. Brian was trying to salvage his reputation, but this was a missed opportunity. He could have come clean in the documentary and educated people about the dangers of trusting con artists. Instead, he tried to play like he was broken, pathetic, and confused. He implied the issues surrounding this scandal were complicated. Nothing could be further from the truth. This was a simple case of a con artist who was caught. Item number 2, Brian Johnson has 9 ancestral tenets that he promoted to his audience as part of his theory for healthy living. The tenets are life forces which have nourished people for millions of years. These tenets were briefly touched on in the documentary, but Brian provided more details about them on his website. Here is a summary of the tenets. The 9 tenets are as follows: sleep, eat, move, shield, connect, cold, sun, fight, and bond. Sleep is straightforward. Brian indicated it was important. Eat means to consume raw meat and organs. Move means exercise a lot, just like Brian does. Shield is about avoiding dangers like Wi-Fi, electromagnetic fields, and man-made poisons. Brian indicated that it was critical for men to keep cell phones away from their genitals. I guess to make sure their genitals won't join a group chat. It's not clear. Connect means to be connected to the earth, like walk on the grass with bare feet. Cold simply refers to being exposed to low temperatures, like taking cold showers. Sun means exposure to the sun to get vitamin D. Fight is basically just changing one's routine, like brushing one's teeth with the other hand or sitting in a different chair. In the documentary, Brian characterized fight a little differently, suggesting it was based on self-defense, primarily using firearms. Bond is about connecting with others, which gives meaning to life. The theme of the 9 tenets is the value of the natural world and living like people used to live many years ago. Item number 3. On his website, Brian expressed his views about masculinity. He he discussed the toxic man, which is not a masculine man. The toxic man is a beta or a subprime. Brian claimed this man is a victim living in his mother's basement who does not take responsibility to create internal value. He doesn't respect himself. The toxic man blames everyone else when women reject him, becoming more interested in video games, social media, substance use, and self-hate. Brian doesn't like the idea of the word toxic being paired with the word masculinity. He views toxic and masculine as opposites. I imagine this is part of his strategy to appeal to young men, particularly those who have trouble establishing romantic relationships with women. Brian attempted to represent the ideal of masculinity, the perfect man, healthy, sensation-seeking, biceps the size of Thanksgiving turkeys, nature-loving, a collector of firearms, and a connoisseur of bull testicles. Item number 4, what do I think happened in this case? This is just a theory, my opinion. Brian Johnson perpetrated a type of scam that is common in the world of alternative treatments. He created an origin story involving how conventional medicine failed his family, went on a magical quest to discover the wisdom of his ancestors, taking something old and making it new, invented a bizarre and nonsensical set of rules for life, which he supposedly followed to build an impressive physique. In reality, it was a hoax. His results were not achieved naturally, rather he used steroids. To be fair, Brian did revive something old, not a lifestyle, but a fraud scheme. He was successful because he tapped into the gullibility and desperation of young men who were searching for purpose in their lives and a hero they can emulate. They bought his supplements because they wanted to be like him, strong, confident, and fearless. Brian was kind of a weird combination of many popular figures. He had a strong view on masculinity like Andrew Tate, a love of nature like the Tiger King, a physique and hairstyle like Bigfoot, and a wild scheme for being healthy like another man named Brian Johnson, the multimillionaire who wants to live forever. Brian, the Liver King, may have assembled a creative combination of beliefs and values, but his fraud was not original. He was just another desperate con artist who took advantage of people eager to be separated from their money. It's difficult to think of anything positive the lifestyle promoted by Brian contributes to society. I guess one could argue that there is one benefit. The man saves a lot of money on shirts. Now moving to my final thoughts. On occasion, I produce ads for sponsors on my channel. This is a pretty common practice in the world of content creators, a way to generate revenue. I have been approached by many different types of companies over the years. The vast majority of them are legitimate. I also get approached by companies promoting unproven supplements. This happens all the time, and I do mean all the time. A few days ago, I received 3 offers in one day from supplement companies. They are extremely vigorous in trying to work a deal with me. I imagine they employ the same tactics with all content creators they approach. When a company approaches me about featuring an ad in one of my videos to promote their product or service, I must decide whether the company is a good fit for my channel. If the company is not a good fit, usually they accept no for an answer without a problem. They understand how important it is that a content creator feel comfortable with a product or service they are going to promote. Supplement companies, however, rarely give up contacting me once I say no. They are the most aggressive companies I receive communication from. They repeatedly send emails telling me about how I would make a ton of money if I would just promote their supplements, vitamins, testosterone, whatever they're selling. These companies do not take a hint. I believe they're telling the truth about the potential to earn a lot of money, but I don't believe they are telling the truth about the effectiveness of their products. Doing business with supplement companies, in my opinion, is selling out. No scientist, no clinician can feel good about promoting something that's based on pseudoscience. A professional's credibility should never be for sale. Some other content creators, however, feel differently. They are all too happy to do whatever is necessary to earn money. And make money they do. The customer base for supplements is staggeringly large. It never ceases to amaze me. This is a sad testament to the current environment on social media. It's the Wild West of false promises, nonsensical treatments, and distorted masculinity. There will always be a con artist for gullible people to look up to. Today it's the Liver King. Maybe tomorrow it will be the Gallbladder Governor or the Testicle Tyrant. These fraudsters may be morally bankrupt, but financially they live like royalty. Despite being exposed as a liar, Bryan Johnson continues to impersonate a superhero. Going back to the Marvel theme, Wolverine has claws, the Liver King has raw eggs, Thor has a hammer, the Liver King has a dumbbell, and the Human Torch has fireballs. The Liver King has bull. Well, you get the idea. Those are my thoughts in the case of Bryan Johnson, also known as the Liver King. Thank you so much for watching. I'll talk to you soon.